So by like 2 p.m. today, there is a highly statistical chance that your nervous system is going to be completely hijacked.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Right. And you probably won't even realize it's happening. Like you'll be physically sitting at your desk, maybe nodding at a colleague on a video call, but mentally, you are just 100 miles away reacting to this invisible threat.
Exactly. You might feel, I don't know, scattered or defensive, or just carrying around this heavy internal exhaustion that you can't quite put your finger on.
Yeah, that invisible threat is usually just the accumulated momentum of a really fast-paced day. I mean, we move so quickly from task to task, email to email, that we essentially just start living outside of ourselves.
And the instinct, of course, is to try and solve that exhaustion with, like, external management.
Oh, totally, like downloading better scheduling apps.
Right, more aggressive time blocking, optimizing our calendars. But those don't actually fix the underlying issue. The real issue is the internal state that you are bringing to those tasks.
Well, so the mission for today's deep dive is to tackle exactly that internal state. We are pulling from materials by Danielle Body, specifically her book, Leading with Presence, a guide to mindful leadership, and there's also a companion guide on building a personal practice.
It's really great material.
It is. And the goal for you listening right now is to just completely reframe what presence actually means. Because, I mean, most leaders seem to treat presence as this innate personality trait.
Like you either naturally command a room and exude this Zen calm, or you just don't.
Right. But Body defines presence strictly as an invisible architecture. It's a structural, mechanical capacity that you can actively build.
I love that. Thinking about it as architecture just changes the whole approach. It means you don't have to overhaul your entire personality.
Thank goodness.
Right. You don't have to magically become someone who never feels stress. You just have to install the inner mechanics that, allow you to stay connected to reality when the pressure spikes.
Which is exactly what we're doing today. We
Yeah.
are going to build a practical toolkit from these materials to keep you anchored, even when your schedule is just completely on fire.
And I think the idea that this is a practiced structural skill is just such a relief.
Oh, totally. Because the baggage around building a mindfulness routine is so heavy.
It really is.
For a busy professional, the thought of adding like one more thing to the to-do list, let alone something that sounds as demanding as mindfulness,
Yeah.
that can induce more stress than it actually relieves.
Yeah, because the problem with the typical approach to mindfulness is that we treat it like an endurance sport.
Oh, like you need to meditate for an hour on a mountain.
Exactly. But the materials we're looking at today, they start from the premise of extreme simplicity. The architecture of presence doesn't require this indulgent, week-long retreat.
Right.
It's actually built in 2-minute increments. But, and this is key, those increments have to start before the day officially begins by setting intentions.
Okay, wait. I need to ask about this. If intention isn't about, like, manifesting a perfect conflict-free day, what is it actually doing? It sounds a little bit abstract.
I get that.
Like I'm just sitting there hoping for the best before I open my laptop.
Well, no, it's actually doing something deeply physiological. I mean, think about what happens if you wake up, roll over, and just immediately check your
Oh,
inbox.
panic. Immediate panic.
Right? Your brain is hit with this literal wall of other people's needs and emergencies. Biologically, your cortisol levels are spiking before your feet even hit the floor.
Yeah, you are instantly being pulled by urgency
Yeah.
and all that emotional residue. Right?
Exactly. So intention is really the act of choosing an inner posture before that external pull even happens.
Oh, okay. So it's like a preemptive strike against the chaos.
It sets a baseline. So you might state an intention like, today I want to remain steady under pressure. Or maybe, today I want to listen to my team without rushing ahead.
Got it.
You are giving your nervous system a set of instructions before the stress actually arrives at your door.
Oh, I see. It's kind of like typing a destination into a GPS before you put the car in drive.
That's a great way to look at it.
Because if I just hit the gas without setting the coordinates, I'm basically letting the traffic, the detours, and all the aggressive drivers out there
Yeah.
completely dictate where I end up. I mean, I might keep moving, but I'm not steering.
Exactly. That GPS analogy highlights perfectly why the intention is so critical. You lock in the coordinates so that when you inevitably hit the traffic, you have a baseline to navigate from.
Right.
But, simply knowing your coordinates doesn't magically keep the car on the road all day.
Because nobody loses their temper or loses their focus all at once. The descent into that reactive state is gradual.
Yeah, it happens in micro moments.
Mhm.
A rushed conversation over here, a passive-aggressive email over there. maybe a subtle disappointment.
It's the unbroken momentum of the day that causes that drift away from your intention.
Exactly. And to counteract that, Body's framework introduces this concept called rhythms of return.
Rhythms of return. I like the sound of that.
Yeah, it shifts the focus from what you are trying to achieve to when you systematically bring yourself back to that baseline. The day is divided into morning, midday, and evening rhythms.
Let's walk through those. Because the morning rhythm is described in the text as orientation, which kind of sounds like what we were just talking about. Beginning at your center, taking a breath, setting the intention.
Right. Biologically, you are signaling to your nervous system that the day does not have to begin in full acceleration.
You're easing the engine to idle rather than just redlining it out of the driveway.
Exactly.
Okay, so the morning orientation makes sense. And the evening rhythm gathering and releasing, that also tracks for me. You reflect on where you stayed present, where you drifted, and you consciously put the day to bed.
So your nervous system isn't carrying all those unresolved loops into sleep.
Right. But the midday rhythm, the recalibration, I have to push back on this a little bit.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because reading through this, I'm thinking, sure, I can control my mornings and evenings, but midday is a complete war zone.
Oh, for sure.
Like, how is anyone supposed to realistically recalibrate when they are buried in back-to-back meetings, fighting fires, and literally eating lunch over their keyboard?
Yeah, it's the hurdle almost everyone tricks over.
Yeah.
But the mistake is thinking that recalibration requires you to, physically step out of the war zone.
Wait, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. Recalibration in the middle of a chaotic day is just about leveraging the tiny existing transitions that you already have. We're talking about micro practices here.
Okay, so what does a micro practice actually look like in the middle of a chaotic Tuesday?
It looks like taking one single deep breath before you click join on the next video call.
Just one breath.
Just one. Or intentionally feeling the physical weight of your feet on the floor for 10 seconds while a spreadsheet loads on your computer.
Oh, wow.
See, by midday, you've accumulated all this mental strain. If you don't find a way to pause and flush that strain, you're going to drag the frustration from an 11 a.m. meeting straight into a 1 p.m. conversation.
So it's not about stopping the momentum of the actual work. It's about interrupting your automatic biological reaction to the work.
Exactly. By creating just a tiny fraction of a second of space between the stimulus, like that stressful email or demanding client, and your response.
Wow.
That 10 seconds of feeling your feet on the floor forces your brain to acknowledge your physical environment, and that lowers your heart rate just enough to prevent the amygdala from hijacking your prefrontal cortex. You are stopping the accumulation of residue.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So we've covered the scheduled rhythms, the morning, the micropauses at midday, the evening release.
Right.
But scheduled check-ins don't account for the sudden disasters. I mean, stressful moments don't look at our calendars before they show up.
They definitely do not.
When a conversation suddenly turns hostile at 2:30 p.m., you can't wait until your evening release to deal with it.
Right, and that's where we move from those scheduled rhythms to what the guide calls personal anchors. If the rhythms are your scheduled maintenance stops, the anchors are your emergency brakes.
Oh, I like that. So what exactly constitutes an anchor in this context?
Well, an anchor is a specific cue that gives your awareness a place to land before emotional activation completely takes over.
Okay.
When sudden pressure hits, your nervous system just shifts into a protective state before conscious thought even forms. You start breathing shallowly, your vision narrows, your jaw tightens.
Yeah, fight or flight.
Exactly. An anchor is designed to interrupt that specific physiological takeover.
Let's break down the types of anchors discussed because there is real utility here. The first one is a physical anchor. And this is literally just like unclenching your jaw, dropping your shoulders away from your ears, consciously unfurrowing your brow.
Yes, because your brain is constantly reading your body's posture to determine how dangerous the environment is.
Probably.
Yeah. If your jaw is clenched and your shoulders are up to your ears, your brain assumes there is a literal predator in the room, and it keeps pumping those stress hormones. So a physical anchor, just softening that tension, it sends a reverse signal to the brain that says, hey, we are not under mortal threat. We can stand down.
It's a biological override. That's fascinating. And then there are reflective anchors, which move from the body to the mind.
Right.
These are quick grounding questions you ask yourself internally when things get heated. Like, what am I carrying right now? Or what story am I telling myself about this person's tone of voice?
Exactly. Reflective anchors force you out of that external reactivity and bring you back into internal observation.
Yeah.
You shift from being consumed by the situation to analyzing your reaction to the situation.
Okay, and the third type is the relational anchor, which specifically targets transitions between different roles.
This one is huge.
Yeah, like pausing in the front door before walking into your house after a brutal commute,
Mm.
using that exact moment to consciously shift from an aggressive problem-solving work mode into a softer relational presence for your family.
Or even just pausing at the door of a conference room to ask, what kind of energy do I want to bring to this team right now?
Thinking about these anchors, they function remarkably like a mental save point in a video game.
Wait, how do you mean?
Well, okay, in a video game, when you hit a save point, it effectively flushes the system memory of the previous level so you can start fresh.
Oh, I see where you're going.
Right. If you mess up the next boss fight, you don't have to restart the entire game from the very beginning. You just reload your last save.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you use a physical or relational anchor like taking that breath at the doorway, you are biologically flushing the cortisol from the previous stressful event. You're allowing your prefrontal cortex to reload before you walk into the next room.
That's a perfect way to look at it.
So if a meeting goes completely off the rails at 2 p.m., you don't have to declare the entire day a total failure. You just mentally jump back to your last anchor, reset the system, and try again.
That perfectly illustrates the mechanism. It prevents compounding errors because the reality is, no matter how solid your architecture is, you are going to mess up. You will lose your temper. You will get distracted. You're going to react poorly.
Which brings us to what feels like the linchpin of the whole framework, the inevitable falter and how to return from it. Because the assertion here is that presence will fail. It is not a question of if, but when.
Right.
And the text suggests that failing isn't proof that your mindfulness practice is broken. It's actually part of the formation process itself.
Yeah, it's vital to recognize that the goal isn't unbroken perfection. The crucial moment isn't when you lose your presence. It's what you do immediately afterward.
Yeah.
And this is where we have to examine the concept of shame.
Because when we snap at someone or realize we've been zoning out for 10 minutes while a colleague was talking, the immediate instinct is heavy self-criticism. We think, ugh, I'm terrible at this, I'm a fake.
But shame deepens the fragmentation. It takes a difficult, momentary failure and turns it into an indictment of your core identity.
It makes it personal.
Exactly. Psychologically, shame pushes you further into a stress response. You become so busy fighting with yourself, judging yourself, that it becomes impossible to return to a state of presence.
So to counter that, the framework suggests changing the internal question. Instead of asking the shame-based question like, what is wrong with me? You pivot to curiosity. What happened in me? What was I carrying into that room that made me react with such hostility?
Right. It shifts the tone from a courtroom trial to an investigative deep dive. And the protocol to follow in that moment is sequential. You have to reconnect inwardly first. Let your own nervous system settle down.
And then?
Only then do you return relationally to the person you impacted, to own it and repair the conversation.
Okay, I have a real concern with this, though. Let's dig into this no shame idea.
Sure.
Because if I snap at my coworker because I'm stressed, and my immediate internal reaction is to just give myself grace and say, oh, I was just carrying too much, aren't I just letting myself off the hook?
I hear that a lot.
Is there a risk that returning without shame just becomes a convenient free pass for behaving like a jerk?
It's a very common concern, but it misunderstands the function of shame. Dropping the shame actually enables genuine accountability.
Wait, how so?
Think about the physiological state of shame. When you are drowning in guilt, your primary instinct is self-protection. You get defensive. You justify your actions. You might even blame the other person like, well, I wouldn't have snapped if you had sent the report on time.
Oh, yeah, or you do the exact opposite and make it all about your own guilt. I'm such a terrible person. I'm the worst manager ever, which then basically forces the person you just hurt to comfort you.
Exactly. Shame makes the situation entirely about you.
Yeah.
But when you remove the shame, you retain the internal steadiness required to actually look at the other person objectively.
Ah.
You can say, hey, I completely left myself in that moment. I was carrying too much stress from my last meeting, and I unfairly took it out on you. That was entirely on me, and I own the impact it had on you.
So shedding the shame doesn't avoid responsibility. It provides the emotional bandwidth necessary to actually take responsibility without collapsing defensively.
True relational repair requires a grounded center.
Yeah.
And shame destroys that center.
Mhm.
And honestly, this is how you actually track your growth in building this architecture.
How do you mean?
Well, you don't track growth by measuring how many days you go without getting triggered. You track it by noticing the distance between the disruption and the return.
Oh, so the gap gets shorter.
The gap gets shorter. A disruption that used to derail your entire afternoon now only derails you for 10 minutes, and eventually it only derails you for the duration of one deep breath.
Wow. Okay, we've been talking a lot about surviving like a chaotic Tuesday afternoon. But if you have to employ these emergency breaks and rhythms every single day for 10 or 20 years, you're going to burn out on the concept of mindfulness itself.
For sure.
How do we scale this into a sustainable lifestyle so it doesn't just feel like another exhausting daily chore?
By understanding that a lifelong practice is built on rhythm, not intensity. The architecture we are talking about requires profound humility because the seasons of our lives change.
Right.
The intense, highly structured presence practice that worked perfectly for you during a season of aggressive career building might completely fall apart during a season of profound grief, or when you're raising a newborn, or navigating a complex health issue.
You can't rigidly force the old structure onto the new reality.
Exactly. You have to adapt. You stay responsive to what your inner life actually needs in the current season rather than forcing a rigid checklist.
Yeah.
Furthermore, the material emphasizes that presence is not just a private, solitary discipline. It requires embodiment in your daily interactions, community, and wise relationships. The ultimate goal isn't just to be calmer. It's to live a life that is more fully inhabited.
You know, that concept of embodiment leads to a line in the source material that absolutely stopped me in my tracks. It says, presence is not just how you lead, it is how you leave people.
Oh, it entirely reframes the purpose of the practice.
It really does. It's so easy in corporate culture or even just in like self-help circles to view mindfulness and self-regulation as this solitary, almost selfish act of self-care.
Yeah, don't bother me. I need my quiet time to regulate.
Exactly. But viewing it as how you leave people means your internal architecture directly dictates the external atmosphere you create for everyone around you.
If you are internally chaotic, you bleed that chaos onto your team, your spouse, your kids.
Yeah.
Doing this structural work,
Yeah.
regulating your nervous system, flushing that emotional residue, is actually a profound act of service to the people around you. You are protecting them from having to constantly navigate your unmanaged internal weather.
You aren't just managing outcomes or deliverables, you are managing the human experience of the people entrusted to your care.
Precisely.
When you are truly present, people don't feel like they are being managed or processed. They feel met, they feel seen. And that builds a depth of trust that no productivity software or scheduling hack could ever replicate.
Which brings us right back to why this practice is so essential.
Yeah. So as we wrap up, let's look at the toolkit we've assembled from this deep dive. Building an invisible architecture of presence doesn't require you to retreat to a mountain.
No mountains required.
It just requires setting clear coordinates for your inner posture before the day begins. It takes establishing those daily rhythms of return orienting in the morning, finding micro pauses to recalibrate at midday, and consciously releasing the residue in the evening.
And it requires deploying physical, reflective, and relational anchors to flush the stress from your system when the inevitable curveballs hit.
Right.
And, perhaps most importantly, it demands that you drop the instinct for shame when you falter, so you can quickly repair the impact and shorten the distance of your return.
It's the invisible architecture that holds up a visible, inhabited life, which leaves us with a final thought to mull over for today.
Let's hear it.
If your internal state dictates the weather in the room, what kind of forecast are you subjecting your colleagues or your family to when you walk through the door today? Are you bringing in a scattered hurricane of urgency? Or are you bringing a grounded, steady calm?
And considering the mechanics we've discussed today, how might taking just one intentional physical breath right now completely alter that weather pattern?
It is that simple and that profound. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Before you step back into the rush of your day, take that breath. Set your coordinates. We'll catch you next time.